Welcome to the very first class on Indian polity and constitution. So I believe none of you have this as your first class for UPSC. No, right? So you all have taken some class for UPSC, some subject. For how many of you this is the first ever class for UPSC? Please raise your hand. Completely new? Oh, no one. So you all are aware of the rigors of the exam, the difficulty level, the syllabus, the exam structure pattern. Great. Okay. So as I said, these are the four aspects of your syllabus. This particular class for around the next 50 odd days will be around Indian polity. That's what we are going to discuss. Okay. So, before we begin our discussion on any kind of topic or any kind of aspect of UPSC, there are three things that we have to understand. The first one is, why are we studying that topic in the first place? I mean, you are spending your afternoon, you could have been after heavy lunch, been sleeping, maybe binge watching some Netflix series, right? Talking to your loved ones, etc. But still you're wasting your time here in the afternoon. Of course, the AC and all is nice. You feel comfortable and you're still awake, forcing yourself to be awake. There has to be a purpose to this. Meaning, what is the importance of Indian polity vis-a-vis the exam is concerned? Now, how do I assess the importance of any subject? The easiest way is to know or see how many questions are being asked from that topic in the exam, right? So let's have a look at the prelims number of questions. So this data is number of questions. So the prelims paper, the first one, is of how many marks? 200 marks. How many questions are there? 100 questions. Now you see, over the course of so many years, this is a year, 2011, 12, 13, 14, so on and so forth. And these are number of questions, not marks. So you can see that from Indian polity, you have roughly 15 to 20 questions every year. Okay, that's around 20% questions being asked from this topic. Okay, so we'll focus more on the exam post 2014. Why? Because till 2014, we also had CSAT marks included in your cutoff. So 2015 onwards, your selection in the main exam depends solely on what? Your GS score. Now, what has been the cutoff also is something we should understand. So initially the cutoff was over 100. We saw the cutoff as 105, 107. In this year, the cutoff increased to almost 116 marks out of 200. And that has been the highest cutoff so far in the exam. From this time onwards, the cutoff has drastically dipped and it was 105, then it became 98 in these 2 years. And now so much so that in 2023, the cutoff was 75 marks. 75 out of 200. That's around 38% marks. And then last time also cutoff was less than 90, 87, 88 marks. So my point is, the cutoff is less than 50%, around 80, 90 marks, out of which around 30, 36 marks worth questions come from polity. And the good thing about polity in prelims is that this is slightly easier compared to other topics. I can't say the same for mains, but in prelims, polity is slightly easier. So you can expect scoring 80 to 90% in polity. So if let's say we have around 15 questions, we can very easily target scoring 12 or 13 correct. That would give you a huge boost in your prelim score also. So a lot also depends on how well you study polity if you want to clear the prelims exam. Okay, so expect anywhere around 15 to 20 questions from polity. And the similar aspect also reflects in your main exam. As I showed you, the GS paper 2 comprises of 4 different topics: Indian polity, then we have governance, we also have social justice and IR. So from Indian polity and constitution, you have around 100 10 marks worth questions. Out of how many marks? 250 marks. So GS paper is worth 250 marks. I am not including governance. This means I am not including bodies like UPSC, CAG, RTI, all these things. Not included. So 110 marks worth questions are devoted solely to what? Polity and constitution. Clear? So this goes on to show the depth of this subject as far as your exam is concerned, or the contribution to your paper is concerned. That's one thing. Now, second thing that we have to understand before you proceed to study anything is knowing the syllabus. And in fact, your first few days of your preparation, when you come in the afternoon before the class, just devote 2-3 minutes into studying the syllabus. Okay, maybe around 2-3 minutes going through the syllabus as to what it contains, what is the expectation, etc. That's something that you need to focus on. Clear? So, if you look at the syllabus in the prelims examination, it's very simple and nothing much is explained. They say that you have to study about Indian polity. Now, what is this? Such a vague statement to make. Indian polity and governance. And they have just mentioned constitution, as if you have to study the entire constitution. That's not true. You don't need to study the entire constitution. Then the political system in the country. We follow a system called parliamentary form of government, and then the structure of how it works, and then Panchayati Raj. Now, interestingly, UPSC's prelim syllabus mentions Panchayati Raj as a part of their prelims syllabus. But questions rarely come from this topic. But this is a very important topic for your main exam. You will get a question from local self-governance in your main exam. That's almost a guarantee. Almost every year, one question from this topic will come in your mains exam. Clear? Then public policy, rights issues, etc. Rights issues relate to topics like fundamental rights, DPSPs, such topics. From there, again, you have very simple, easy questions in the prelims. So nothing much to discuss here as far as the prelim syllabus is concerned. But UPSC has clarified in detail the mains syllabus. Okay, so this is the entire main syllabus. As in when we keep on proceeding, we'll keep on coming back to this to see whether we have covered ground or not. So I'll just briefly go through this. So we have to discuss the Indian Constitution, historical underpinnings. This is the topic that you'll be covering in your modern India, where you'll be discussing about Government of India Act 1909, 1919, 1935, Councils Act, all those topics. Then we come to evolution, features, important features of our constitution, and also amendments. What is the meaning of this word amendment? Changes, modifications. So we say that this Indian constitution is a living document. Yes or no? What's the meaning of a living document? Which can grow. That's why the word organic is used for it. It's an organic document. It can grow, meaning changes can be made in it. So far, we have made 106 changes in this document. Right? If you compare this to some Western countries, say USA, the US Constitution was made in 1789. And since 1789, they have made 27 changes only. And we have since 1950 made 106 changes. That's why we always call our rule book more flexible than rigid. Quite easy to make changes. But a lot of these changes are not required to be known because they are just cosmetic changes. To give you a simple example, there is a list of official languages that are used in our country, like Telugu is an official language, etc. So one more official language is Odia, spoken in Odisha. Great, amazing. So earlier the spelling of Odia was O-D-I-Y-A, but somehow people, they did not like the spelling. They said, no, the spelling is wrong. You please modify it. And we had to change the spelling to O-D-I-A. Now, this change of spelling could have been done very easily, right? But even this was done through a constitutional amendment. So a lot of these changes that you see here might not be quite relevant for us. So don't panic that I have to mug up all these 106 changes. Not really, not required. Then, and the syllabus itself clarifies, you have to only focus on significant provisions, meaning the important ones, not all the provisions, the important provisions of the Constitution. Beyond that, there is a term used called basic structure. What's the meaning of basic structure? Soul. What is the meaning? Somebody says it's the soul, the heart and the soul. Oh. Like you call others, you are my soul, you are my heart. Right? If you get a chance, that is right. So, soul of the Constitution. Okay. The essence, the value system. My point is, we just saw that we can make changes. I mean, you have yourself agreed that amendments are possible. 106 changes have been made so far. But the question is, can we change everything, is my point. That's not possible. Not everything can be changed. So, let's say today, if we make a new modification, say that from now onwards, India is no longer a democracy. India will be a dictatorship. Narendra Modi is the new king. Rahul Gandhi is the new prince. Whatever. Can this change be allowed, is my question. Tell me. If we modify and amend the Constitution, can we change India from a democracy to a dictatorship? Is that possible? No? Of course not. Not possible. Not every change is allowed. Some changes are okay. Others cannot be done. So basic structure actually refers to the pillars on which this rule book stands. Those are the essential values of our Constitution that can never be changed. Of course, this topic, as somebody mentioned, is not mentioned anywhere in the entire Constitution. It is a creation of judiciary, a very popular judgment that is called Keshwanand Bharati, is what gave us this concept of basic structure. But more on this when you study Keshwanand Bharati. Then you have to also study the functions and the responsibilities of the union and the states. What are the functions of the union, the states, the issues and challenges pertaining to federal structure. What's the meaning of federal? Dual power distribution. Okay, fair enough. So any system which is characterized by two levels, central and state, that's called a federal structure. If we have notebooks and pens, we can write this down. Possible? Ah, great. Please start writing then. Okay. Federal. Just write this word, give a dash and write. A system characterized by two levels of government. Two levels of government. Your dash, union, comma, states. Two levels of government. Union, comma, states. I mean, the names can vary. Sometimes, in certain countries, they don't call it states, they call it provinces. But that's okay. Yes, Prince Praful Maheshwari ji, both center and states are present. Absolutely correct. So yes, federal structure. And then devolution of powers and finances up to local levels. Extremely important as a topic. Devolution of powers and finances up to local levels. What is the meaning of local level? When you say local level, what do you mean? Panchayats and municipalities. So also just mention there, local level is equal to panchayats, comma, municipalities. So this first page of yours in your notes will be a reference to your syllabus. When you read the syllabus every day, you can just go through these terms and have a better understanding. Local level, dash, panchayats, comma, municipalities. Municipalities. P-A-L-I-T-I-E-S. And yes, as I said, extremely important. Please expect one question from this topic in your main exam. Almost a guarantee. In the last 12 odd years, we have had one question almost every year. So, devolution of powers and finances up to local levels. We have to devolve powers to panchayats. We have to devolve money to panchayats. And also challenges pertaining to panchayats and municipalities. So, various challenges faced by these bodies. Can you tell me some challenges faced by panchayats in the country? Any challenge that you can think of? How many of you are from a rural area? No one? Then, any challenge in panchayats? No, finances are there, okay. Some other challenge. A very common challenge. Have you heard of this concept called Panchayat Pati? Panchayat Pati does not mean the Pati of entire Panchayat. That's not what it means actually. Panchayat Pati just means the husband of a member of Panchayat. So normally what happens is, either you call them Panchayat Pati or Sarpanch Pati, depends on what the wife is. So, because we have reservation policy in panchayats and municipalities, so 1/3 seats have to be reserved for women, though in a lot of states now it's 50%. So, women do contest. They win also, but they don't go and sit in the meetings. Their husbands go and sit in the meeting. This concept is called Panchayat Pati or Sarpanch Pati. If your spouse is a member, ward member, you are called a Panchayat Pati. If your wife is a Sarpanch, you are called a Sarpanch Pati. Now that's a problem, because then this takes away the entire logic of reservation. Yes or no? So yes, these are certain issues that are plaguing the panchayats. Then separation of power between various organs, dispute redressal mechanisms and institutions. Extremely important, this topic as well. I'll just explain shortly what is separation of powers. Separation of powers simply means the separation between three organs. Three organs? LEJ, very good, legislature, executive and judiciary. So here only comes the concept of judicial activism. So judicial activism is a part of separation of powers. So what does it mean actually? It simply means that, our government sometimes fail to perform their tasks properly. So does the parliament. So judiciary has to interfere and instruct the parliament, instruct the government to perform their tasks properly. Okay, this is called judicial activism. Clear? So again, from this topic, you will have one question in the exam. That's almost a guarantee. Either activism or separation of powers or a concept called PIL, public interest litigations. Litigation meaning court case. That's litigation. So any court case filed in the interest of public is called public interest litigation.
How can it be distinguished from judicial overreach?
That will require a lot of detailed discussion. We'll come to that later on, right? We'll have to firstly explain what is activism, then give examples and then explain as to what can amount to overreach. For example, since you have asked, there was a judgment passed a few years back regarding the banning of sale of liquor on national highways. Do you remember? So, according to the Supreme Court in 2016, Balu judgment, Balu case, they said that sale of liquor on national highways has to be banned.
Within the vicinity of 20 kilometers?
No, 500 meters only, not 20 kilometers. That is too much. Within the vicinity of 500 meters, no sale of liquor. Now, of course, it is based on this fact that, people drink and drive and accidents happen and people die. Yes or no? That's the belief. But then this belief is based on what? Some data, right? We should have some data. If you look at the NCRB data, the National Crime Records Bureau data, 65 to 70% road accidents and deaths due to accidents happen because of poor quality of roads. Okay? Less than 5% deaths are because of drunken driving. That's data. So Supreme Court interfered, gave a judgment without the backing of data. That can possibly be an example of overreach, where they did not have sufficient knowledge and still they believed that people drink and drive and then they cause accidents and die. That's not true. Though I'm not supporting drink and driving, just to clarify. Okay. All I'm saying is that there are other reasons also. So sometimes judiciary tries to interfere too much in the day-to-day functioning of government. That could be possibly categorized as overreach. Anyway. Then the parliament and the state legislature, the structure, the functioning of parliament, the conduct of business, their powers, their privileges, and all the issues arising out of this entire concept. Then the structure, the organization, and the functioning of both the government, that is the executive, as well as the judiciary. Nowadays, UPSC's favorite topic is judiciary. So in every prelims, 1 or 2 questions are asked from judiciary, their basic structure with respect to the Supreme Court's functioning, etc. So again, becomes an important topic as far as their structure, organization, and functioning is concerned. Then, every 5 years in our country, we have this very unique thing that happens. What is that? Elections, where people go through the various candidates, their performance, their developmental goals, etc., their party manifesto, right? You go through the performance of the candidate, and then you can go to the polling booth and cast the vote on the basis of on the basis of development, not caste, right? So that is called election. Takes place every 5 years. To govern elections, we have a law in the country. That law is called RPA, Representation of People's Act. That's a very popular law. There are 2 laws, RPA 1950 and RPA 1951. In fact, this RPA 1951 is extremely important. In the last 7-8 years, almost on 5 occasions, we have a question from RPA 1951. And that too not the entire law, just a small part of it, chapter 3 of this law. So once we discuss elections, I'll also explain RPA 50 and 51, and then we'll have a strong command over this particular aspect. Then, of course, appointment to various constitutional posts. We have various such bodies like, say, the Finance Commission, the Commission for Scheduled Caste, Scheduled Tribes. So many such bodies exist in the country. Then, how are the people appointed? What are the powers and functions of such bodies? Needs to be covered here. And then statutory, regulatory, and various quasi or quasi. Both pronunciations are correct. What is the meaning of quasi or quasi? Semi, partially. So quasi or quasi-judicial bodies. Bodies which are like judiciary but don't exactly enjoy all the authority. An example of a quasi-judicial body could be tribunals. Okay. So now what is a statutory body? Largely we'll be covering all these statutory bodies as a part of governance, not as a part of polity. Statutory bodies are bodies which are made by the parliament. Statutory comes from the word statute. What is statute? Statute means law. That's it. If you want to keep things simple, call it a law. If you want to impress people, call it statute. It does not matter. Both things remain the same, statute or law. So this is the entire syllabus that we have to cover as far as our polity is concerned. Clear? So now you can write a small heading, syllabus. So I'll just summarize all this into what needs to be covered. The first thing that you need to cover is, of course, Constitution. Again, not all the articles, only select few. Clear? Number 2, important statutes. Statutes meaning laws. So some important laws need to be covered. Like we saw RPA, that's a law. Citizenship Act, these need to be covered. Then, yes, very important, Supreme Court judgments, Supreme Court observations, Supreme Court instructions. In fact, sometimes even the instructions of Supreme Court and directions of Supreme Court, their observations have yielded questions in the exam. Supreme Court observed something and UPSC asked a question on that. So we have to take care of this as well. Then some government orders. Sometimes some government orders become important based on the content, etc., selectively. Few of them, very few. Okay, that's it. See, beyond this, there is also one more aspect that you need to understand. That aspect is some traditions or customs in the country. Okay, I'm not talking about the tradition and custom that you follow in your house, but we follow as a part of our political process. For example, have you heard of this person called governor? Yes? Every state has a governor? Yes or no? Now, what is the qualification to be a governor? Now, if you look at the Indian Constitution, there is an article called Article 157. This article says that you have to be a citizen of India and you should be of the age 35 or above. That's it. And you are eligible to be appointed as a governor. Okay, very simple. But my point is, you please go and check the governor for your state, whichever state you belong to. He or she is always an outsider. Always. He or she will never belong to the same state. That's not mentioned anywhere actually. It's not a law or a rule. It's just a custom, a tradition that in our country, we always appoint outsiders as governors. That is what is called convention. Conventions are customs. Right? Conventions. Just give a dash and write there. Traditional ways of doing things which have the same force, as that of laws. Example, right below that, example, outsiders being appointed as governors. Outsiders being appointed as governors. Okay, so we'll discuss this later on. But the idea is that this is not mentioned anywhere, but we follow this as a practice. And so much so that this practice has never ever been broken except once. In 1967, there was a case when one person, Venkat Vishwanath, he was from Kerala, though he was an IAS officer and he was in the Madhya Pradesh cadre, but then he became the governor of Kerala after retirement. That's the only exception. Otherwise, governors are always outsiders. Okay. Why and all? Later on. So, some conventions are also important. We need to focus on those conventions also. Clear? This is what you need to cover as far as your syllabus is concerned. So, two aspects are done. The very first thing is to understand why polity is important. Second is to know the syllabus. I'll get you a printed copy also. Okay. So, please stick this in the printed copy on your notes, the very first page, stick it, and you can then read the syllabus on a regular basis. Clear? The third thing that we need to understand, and which every aspirant also has this query or concern about, is the book list. What's that magical book list? That if I could study only those books, I would clear the exam. I wish there was some magical book list. But I'll tell you certain books that you can follow. So as far as the book list is concerned, so these are two class 9th NCERT books. This is Democratic Politics Part 1, class 9th, and this is Part 2, class 10th. Okay. Now, we don't need to study these two books. Okay. Not really. These are very basic in nature. Now, I'm sure you just had your history classes and maybe geography classes, and there the faculty will tell you NCERTs are very important, and that's the beauty of it. When you look at any kind of suggestion on how to prepare for UPSC online, they'll say NCERTs are very important. But that's very selective actually, not for every subject. For some subjects, NCERTs are not that important, and for some, they are extremely important. So for polity, we have to be selective. Now, these are very, very generic kind of books, very basic in nature. Now, if there is anyone here who is in their class 11th or 12th or first year of college, anybody in the first year of college? First year of college. Then you please study these two books. You have plenty of time, you can start from here, no problem. Those who are in their second year, third year, final year, graduates, please don't study this book. This is going to be too basic. It will waste your time. Rather, prepare. Clear? So this should safely be skipped only for people who are still pursuing their graduation or are in the school. Okay. Now, next we have, I used to take classes earlier in online medium as well, in a very, very big company. That company went down, not because of me, just to clarify. So there we had a huge group of people, and there were students of class 9th and 10th also preparing for UPSC. I could not tell them that this book is very easy because they are studying and finding it difficult. It depends, right? So nowadays we start preparation early. Then we have two more NCERT books. Now this is a book that people in their second, third year can study. All those whose attempt is in 2027 onwards. You can go through this book if you want to, but still I would categorize this book as optional study. But those whose attempt is next year and all, please don't. Okay. Indian Constitution at Work class 11. It's an optional read. If you want to, go through it. If not, let it be. No problem. Clear? But what is required to be studied is this book. This is a mandatory study. Please read this book. It has 10 chapters. Of course, you won't get direct help vis-a-vis in your exam always, but sometimes this book will give you a lot of fodder material to write your answers. Ultimately, all the practice is being done to what? Improve your answer quality, right? So this book is a must read. So what you can do over the course of next few days is get this book. There are 10 chapters. Please read one chapter per day. Once you are done, revise. Once you are done, revise. 3 times done. So this can be finished very easily along with the class itself without any extra effort. 1 chapter per day can be done. Now, how do you read this book? You please go home, purchase this book and read it. Don't underline, don't mark, don't color, don't shade. Casual reading. After you have read all the 10 chapters, first round of reading, second round when you start reading, underline with a pencil that you feel is important. Okay. And the third round that you read, then you can maybe underline with a highlighter or pen, whatever, what you feel is more important. And based on that, you can then, once you are revising that book ever again, just read the underlined or highlighted points only. That's how you actually read a book, not less than 3 times. Okay. Now see, why do I say that this book is important, this political theory class 11? To give you a simple example, there's a question asked in 2019, the main exam. Look at this. What can France learn from the Indian Constitution's approach to secularism? Okay. Now, we'll discuss what is the meaning of secularism, etc. What is the meaning of Indian secularism and Western secularism. That's all for some other day. My point is UPSC asked this question, and interestingly, if you have observed, since 2014, since this party BJP came to power, across the country there have been debates going on that secularism is under threat, etc. We are suffering, minorities are suffering, though we don't see that happening, but still, debates are happening. But UPSC says, forget all that nonsense. You tell me what is good about Indian secularism. Media is discussing what is bad about Indian secularism. But UPSC says, no, you tell me what is good about Indian secularism. Reverse, completely. And in fact, this similar question was asked in 24 also, where they said, discuss India as a secular state and compare with the secular principles of US Constitution. Now you might say, but sir, there it was France, now it's USA. No difference. USA and France, all these countries follow what is called a Western model of secularism. India follows an Indian model of secularism. Now, this question looks very challenging, but actually, if any aspirant had read this book, there's a chapter 8 in this book, which is called Secularism. And that chapter actually describes this very point. Indian model versus Western model. What is good about Indian model? What is the shortcoming in the Western model? And there they have taken the example of USA. So had you studied the topic, you could have attempted the mains answer. Right? So that's why I said that this book becomes important. See, chapter 8, Indian model of secularism. So we need to, study this book as well. Now let's come to more serious or more important books. So this is your standard Indian Polity by Lakshmikant, 8th edition, the new one. If you have the 7th one, no problem. There is no need to change it. So if you have the 6th one, 7th one, 8th one, it's almost the same. If you have the first one, then purchase a new one. Okay. But 6th, 7th, 8th, not much of a difference. 6th one, please also cross-check because in the 7th one, they have added new chapters. Take a photocopy from your friends. Anything is okay. But don't start studying this book immediately. I will tell you which chapters are important. Selectively study those chapters only. Don't go crazy. This book has a lot of useless information. Okay. So don't fall prey that this is some kind of a Bible which is required. This book is pretty good for prelims. For mains, not really. But for prelims, it's a good book. But selective study. Clear? But what you have to study and what you have to also bring to class on a daily basis is this. Bare Acts. Bare Acts meaning the copy of the Indian Constitution. Okay? Please go home and purchase this copy today itself. That's why I mentioned multiple publications. Professional, universal. I'm not getting any commission from them, just to clarify. Okay? Purchase anything you want. But please bring this book daily in the class. This book has nothing but all the Indian Constitution articles written verbatim. We will follow it, study it, I'll explain it. Are we clear? So I would prefer you purchase PM Bakshi, very popular, 20th edition, or professionals, you just go to the shop and ask the shopkeeper, Bare Acts. And the shopkeeper will understand, I'm sure, because he was also an aspirant at some point of time. Just ask him for Bare Act of the Indian Constitution and you will get the copy. Okay? Please bring it from tomorrow onwards, or else there will be a huge problem in the class of understanding. Are you clear? Not that difficult. Maybe 200, 300, 400 rupees at best. So if you have spent so much money, 300 rupees more. Now, if somebody says, no, sir, I cannot, I have no money at all, I have spent all the money, then you can also search for COI PDF. It is available free of cost online. You please Google search for this. But then this means you have to have an iPad and a pen to underline things there. Okay? As soon as it said free, someone said, okay, now finally we have something more material to download and save. No, but if you have an iPad and you're using an iPad or whatever tablet, etc., and you have a pen to underline, great. If not, how will you underline on soft copy? Right? That's a problem. So please purchase any of these books only. Clear? Bring this book in the class and that's how we'll proceed and study. Now, Yes, you can also keep a copy of this, no problem. See, as an aspirant of UPSC, you should have the copy of the Indian Constitution. Even Rahul Gandhi has a copy of Indian Constitution. Have you seen Rahul Gandhi always displaying a red colored book? That's an EBC publication, same book, different publication. You can purchase Rahul Gandhi's publication also, no problem. Okay, that's slightly costly because it's hard bound and all. That company is called EBC. If you want to purchase that copy for show off, no problem, no difference. Points remain the same. See, purchase this, it will look nice in your bookshelf also. Take a selfie, act like a serious aspirant, because that's more important. To study or not, secondary. Confuse everyone that you are a sincere aspirant. Okay, so for that also this book is required. Okay, so this should be it. Now, what beyond this? You know, I showed this question earlier also in multiple places. Look at this question. Just look at the right side. This is a question from UPSC Prelims. With reference to Gucci, sometimes mentioned in the news, consider the following statements. Okay. It is a fungus. It grows in some Himalayan forest areas. It is commercially cultivated in the Himalayan foothills of northeastern India. And then they have these options. Why I'm showing this? Look at this Instagram handle. The rarest and the yummiest Gucci mushrooms. The most expensive mushrooms and are only found in Himalayas, and it goes on to explain. Right? It seems like the UPSC paper setter is following this Instagram profile and making questions. Now, my point is, should we also have Instagram as a part of our preparation? That is a question that you have to answer. I can't answer. Okay? If you want, feel free. Otherwise, it's your choice. Completely. So, just to summarize now, what we need to cover, please write the final book list that you need to follow for this exam. First up, as every faculty says, I have to say that my class notes are amazing. You have to say it right. So, no, class notes are good. So, please follow class notes. That's of key importance. Number one, we will have some kind of dictation as well in the class. So, please follow that. Second, please keep a copy of Constitution of India. These two are mandatory. And number three, you please keep this NCERT book, Political Theory, and in the next 30 days, please finish the reading thrice. Beyond that, let's not forget, we can also keep a copy of Lakshmikant for selective reading. And after this, what you should follow is current affairs. Now for current affairs, we have three different aspects. Number one, if you have ever heard of this thing called newspaper, you know this thing, newspaper comes every day and then you postpone to studying on Sunday, that Sunday never comes, that same newspaper. So which newspaper to study is my question. Now there are of course multiple newspapers that you can study, Times of India, etc. And they are great newspapers also, but not really relevant for UPSC. Because Times of India will have news like, eating tomatoes makes you tall, right? The actor Dharmendra passed away. 5 times he died yesterday. Right? Family is saying he's alive. News says, no, he has passed away. We know very well. So if you want to know which actor has affair with which actress, etc., Times of India is good. But not for UPSC. For UPSC, we have to focus on The Hindu or Indian Express. I would suggest you follow Indian Express. But again, if you have purchased the Hindu subscription, your heart and mind is devoted to Hindu, no problem. They're almost the same, no difference at all. Indian Express has slightly better articles written by better scholars. That's the only difference. But anything is okay. Now, if you don't read the newspaper, no problem. Still, at least read the editorial. This must be read. That's the bare minimum that you have to do. Okay. Second, Please read monthly magazine of any coaching institute. If you are not reading the newspaper, read the monthly magazine of any coaching institute. It is of grave importance that you read the magazine at least 3 times. Okay? Every single month magazine must be read properly. Clear? And number 3, which most aspirants do not do, and if you do, you'll have at least plus 30-40 marks in your entire GS paper. That's the bare minimum, and that is the gist summary of Yojana and Kurukshetra. It is not just for your polity or governance, but also for economics and science and tech and Indian society and every other GS paper. So don't read the entire magazine, just read the gist of Yojana and Kurukshetra. Every month, you can just Google search for it. Summary of Yojana, October 2025. Hundreds of coaching institutes are releasing their summary. Download any summary, read it, mug it up. Reading this will give you a lot of pointers for your answers. Okay? So please start it as early as possible. This is of extreme importance. This will change your answer from a, average answer to a very good answer. And not just in paper 2, but across the spectrum. Clear? That's it. Beyond this, we will be following the previous year questions in the class. As and when the topic comes, we'll look at the prelims questions also. And not immediately, but after covering 3-4 days of classes, hopefully 5 days of classes, I'll also explain to you answer writing. Of course, I know you are experts in answer writing. You don't need my help and all. But still, I'll give you a brief on answer writing. And then we'll also incorporate answer writing as a part of our regular exercise. So, PYQs we'll cover in the class. Beyond that, the only task that you have to perform is revision. That's it. This is up to you completely. I have no control over you. So as your previous faculty must have also explained to you, it's more important to read one book multiple times than reading multiple books once only. So don't go on collecting new notes. You are not here to be a notes collector, but a district collector, right? So you'll have new notes in the market every day, new color, new design, new font. It's all the same content. You have to mug up what is there in front of you. Sadly, there's nothing new that this preparation offers. It all requires you to mug up the same notes over and over again. Clear? Okay. So this is by far the book list that is there. I keep on saying this, but nothing happens, right? Ultimately, all aspirants fall prey to Drake only. So, please don't go for random notes collection. Focus on class notes, revision, PYQs, etc. Okay? Any doubt, issue, concern so far? No doubt? Great. So, before we begin our discussion, we'll just discuss some basic terms, etc. and then we'll move on to our topics. I'll explain the structure of our course later on. So, just write the heading, basic information. Basic information. Basic information. So first up, we need to understand types of bodies in our country. Heading, types of bodies. Types of bodies. Types of bodies. Number 1, right? Constitutional bodies. Constitutional bodies. How do you define constitutional bodies? Which are mentioned in the Constitution. Please write, give a dash and write. Bodies mentioned in the Constitution. bodies mentioned in the Constitution. Okay, example, ECI. What is ECI? Election Commission of India. Then, of course, your body, UPSC. Then you can write other bodies like NCSC. What is this NCSC? National Commission for Scheduled Castes. NCSC. National Commission for Scheduled Castes. Comma. NCST. Commission for Scheduled Tribes. NCBC. Commission for Backward Class or Caste? Classes, not caste. There's nothing called backward caste, it's backward class. So, etc. So, all these bodies are actually mentioned in the Constitution and hence they are called constitutional bodies. Okay, number 2. Don't draw diagram and all, just write. Number 2. Statutory. So first was constitutional bodies, second is statutory. Just wrote the spelling in your notes only few moments ago. STATUTORY, statutory. Okay, very good. So please give a dash and write. Bodies established by an act of legislature. An act of legislature. Okay. So when a law is made, those bodies are not mentioned in the Constitution. They are statutory in nature. Example, you can write Lokpal. Example, Lokpal, comma, NHRC. What is NHRC? Human Rights Commission. NHRC, comma, NCW. What is NCW? Commission for Women. National Commission for Women. We'll discuss all these bodies later on. So you'll be comfortable with the short forms. Don't panic. Okay. NCM. What is M? Not men. We don't have a commission for men. Though there's a demand in Delhi. There are some people in Delhi who are raising a protest that we should have some commission for men also. But right now there is no such commission for men, sadly. Right? Minorities. M stands for minorities. National Commission for Minorities, etc. Okay, that's second type of body. Third one, please write executive. Number 3, executive. Write your dash. Bodies created by an executive/government order. Bodies created by an executive/government order. So when the government creates a body by issuing an order, that's called an executive body. Example, ministries, Niti Aayog, and the very independent CBI, right? Niti Aayog, ministries, CBI, etc. 3 types of bodies. Clear? Okay. So once we're done here, let's also understand how the Constitution looks like. But before that, okay, solve this question. Though, I mean, you might not be able to, but take a guess and try solving it. Let's see. Solve today only, I mean. Answer, any guess? D, all four. A, B, C, okay, no fighting, relax. Consider the following organizations or bodies in India, and the question says, how many of the above are constitutional bodies? NCBC, yes or no? Okay, we just wrote it also. NHRC, that is not a constitutional body. So these two we knew. Now see, National Consumer Dispute Judicial Commission. Why will a consumer disputes body be a part of the constitution? Common sense. So this is actually a statutory body, but mostly commonsensical. Law Commission is an executive body. Okay, we'll also sometimes see the recommendation of this Law Commission, which is an executive body, right? So this is also not a part. Right answer is A, only one. You can write Law Commission as an example also in executive bodies. Law Commissions. Constitution of India. So this is where you can get the copy. The legislative.gov.in website in multiple languages. Download in all the languages, no problem. But for the class sake, we'll follow the English version only. Okay? So this is the Indian Constitution. Now see, this entire rule book is divided into various parts. Okay? So let's show you, for example, that's how this book would look like. So say this is part 5 of this rule book. Part 5 deals with the union. So every part deals with a different kind of aspect. Part 1 deals with union and its territories. Part 2 deals with citizenship. Part 3 rights, 4 DPSP, etc. Okay. So this book has overall 25 different parts, dealing with 25 different kind of topics. Now in every part you will have some chapters. Now some parts have chapters, some parts don't have chapters. Chapters of no concern to us. Under it you see all these numbers, right? 52, 53, 54, yes? These numbers are actually what? Articles. The provisions of the Constitution, articles. 52, 53, etc. Are you clear? So that's what the rule book is all about. Let's come back and write here. The heading was Constitution. So write like this in a tabular format. Originally and currently. Originally we had 22 parts, but some changes were incorporated. So now we have how many parts? 25 parts. Now under every part you will have chapters. So we won't refer to chapters because some parts may have chapters, some parts may not have chapters. Then under those chapters we have what? Articles. So we had originally 395 articles. Now we have around 470 articles. After all the modifications, around roughly 470 articles. Clear? But please understand, the last number has not been changed. So if you look at the Bare Acts, the last article is still 395. We keep on adding articles in between. And any addition that is made is denoted by a capital letter. Okay? For example, there is some article 21, there is some article 22. we have to make one new article. So we will insert the article in between, calling it 21 capital A. This means that this is a new addition, an amendment. Clear? Okay. Now under articles, you also have clauses and sub-clauses. For example, just look at this here. Like this is Article 53. It reads executive power of the union, and this is number 1, then number 2, then number 3. So this is Article 53, Clause 1, Article 53, Clause 2, Article 53, Clause 3, and Clause 3 also has sub-clauses in it. So how do I denote it? Article 53, Clause 3, Sub-clause A. Clauses and sub-clauses. Does every article have a clause? Of course not. Like this article has no clause, but this article has a clause. So clause, sub-clause, it would depend on situation. So you can just write here clauses and sub-clauses. Again, we don't really focus on these. Might be present, might not be present. Clear? Now, towards the end of our constitution, we have something called schedule at the very end. Because see what happens is, let's say, the very first article says that India, that is Bharat, shall be a union of states. States, names of all the states. So if I start writing the names of all the states there itself, it creates haphazardness in the flow. It obstructs the smooth flow. So towards the end of our constitution, we have added the topic called schedules. Schedules are nothing but provisions that provide a better understanding of any article. Those are called schedules. So you can write below this schedules. As and when you study, you'll understand the importance of schedules. Originally, we had 8 schedules. Now we have 12 schedules. As and when the time comes, we'll discuss all these schedules. Clear? Now one more thing, when it comes to making changes in the constitution, making amendments, procedure, detail later on. But just a brief idea, there are 3 ways to make any kind of amendment or modification. So, amendment or modification or changes. Now, we have to use these words very carefully. If I say modification, it's a general kind of word. Amendment is a more serious word. But anyway, those things later on. How do we express this idea of change? So, we will use a simple standard metric, the number of times the book has been changed and the year in which the change was made. For example, we denote it like this. First, CAA 1951. This means what? The first Constitutional Amendment Act 1951. Or you can also, for example, say 42nd CAA 1976. What does this mean? This means that the rule book was changed for the 42nd time in the year 1976. That's how you denote changes in the constitution, and you can also write it like this. First A/A 51, or maybe 44th A/A 78. Both are correct. Whatever you want to write in the answer, both are correct. No problem at all. Don't think if you write CA, more marks in the exam. Nothing of that sort will happen. Same marks. Okay. So this is how we denote things in the main rule book. Now, should we proceed from here? Now, about other laws. So, before we move on to statutes or laws, how are laws actually made? And then we have this word called act also. Act and law, difference and stuff. Let me explain. Next, please write statute. Or law. The journey of every law starts with a proposal. Not that proposal that you receive or you give. Bill. Proposal. A bill is brought in the legislature on some topic. This bill is then approved. So we say it is passed by the members, the politicians, and the president and all sign it. So once the bill is passed, it becomes an act. But sadly, this act cannot be imposed on people. You have to inform people about this act. So this act needs to be published. So we say it is notified or published. Only then will this act now become what? Law. This is a journey of a law, from bill to act to law. Now, where is this published? So this is published in government's magazine. Like, this coaching institute has a magazine. Similarly, governments also have magazine. That's called Gazette of India or your state. Gazette is that weekly or daily magazine that the governments publish. It is published both online and offline. Online, daily update, but offline, only weekly. Okay, and who publishes it? So this is published by Ministry of Housing and Urban Affairs. There is a department called Department of Publications. Ministry of Housing and Urban Affairs. So this is the ministry that publishes this soft copy of the Gazette. The hard copy can be found on this website, egazette.gov.in. Clear? Should we proceed now? Okay, just to also show you this Gazette. So please don't start reading the Gazette. It is of no use to us. So this is the Gazette C, the Ministry of Housing and Urban Affairs. So every action taken by the government is uploaded here. All the bills, recruitment rules of administrative officers, any contract given, any tender given, any bill introduced, any law made, everything is published here for everyone to see. Clear? Government being transparent, selectively, right? Of course. So that's the law. Now next we also need to understand this concept called separation of powers. Next heading please. Separation of powers. Separation of powers. Now, why do we need separation of powers? Why should powers be separated?
For independent function.
For independent functioning. Checks and balances. So, we need to ensure checks and balances, right? It is of grave importance in a democracy. In fact, all our rights, liberty, etc. is based or premised on this idea, checks and balances. Every organ should be kept in check. That's the core idea. Okay? So the purpose of this is to ensure checks and balance. Checks and balance. Done? Now see, we have of course 3 organs. Should we proceed from here? We have 3 organs. The very first organ is the legislature. Okay. So below this write a small subheading, 3 organs of the state. 3 organs of the state. Now just write this and wait. Don't write anything else. 3 organs of the state. Now, I have used this word state here. Means what? The entire country or Telangana? Entire country. What is the meaning of state? What is state?
A country with a place which has population and a government and it has a borders, sovereignty.
So there are 4 features that define a state. So tell me 4 features. On one side you can write this. State refers to any kind of entity which has a fixed population, a defined boundary, then there should be a governing structure, and sovereignty. Spelling of sovereignty is important, not NEET, N-T-Y. Sovereignty. Okay, sovereign means any body which is free and independent to take decisions for itself. That's called sovereign. Okay, free from external control. This is actually the definition of state. So when we say state in general, we are referring to the entire country at large. Okay, not just your states. And that is why the makers made a huge mistake creating confusion. They should have called the states as provinces only. We had them earlier as provinces only. Provinces would not create this confusion. State does, but how can you blame our makers now? We can't. They were great people. Okay, so now you can write the first organ, number 1, legislature. Don't draw this diagram and all, just write legislature. The grand building, built recently, taxpayers' money, just mentioning it. Legislature. And what is the function of legislature? Make laws. Legislature dash make laws. Done? That's organ number 1. Second organ is judiciary. This is the Grand Supreme Court. Number 2 is judiciary. Function of judiciary. Ensure justice and also to interpret laws. See, our MPs, our politicians are innocent people. They make laws but can't understand it themselves. So we need judiciary to help them understand what is the meaning of the law. Interpret is to understand the laws. Interpret laws. Okay. And in our country, we also have some courts called constitutional courts. What is this term? These are courts which have the power to interpret the constitution. Which courts are called constitutional courts? Supreme Court and High Courts are called constitutional courts. The power to interpret the constitution. Just right below that. And of course, in our country, in India, this power is given to Supreme Court and all the High Courts. How many Supreme Courts do we have? Oh, only one. How many High Courts do we have? Many. Of course, many High Courts. 25 High Courts. In total, we have 25 High Courts. Don't worry. Details later on. See, apart from this, of course, as I said, since the judiciary has the task of interpreting laws, it also is the final interpreter of all the laws, including upholding and safeguarding the constitution. That's the task of judiciary. Clear? Are they clear on this? If we are so clear, solve this very challenging question. What is meant by custodian? No, the meaning of the word custodian. Custodian, somebody under whose custody it is, right? Caretaker. So, who or which of the following is the custodian of the constitution? Right answer is D, Supreme Court of India, and you can write this point in your statement also. Just below this, put a star mark and write SC. Supreme Court is the custodian. Supreme Court is the custodian of the Indian Constitution. Supreme Court is the custodian of the Indian Constitution. Look at the questions being asked in the prelims exam. Right? Just embarrassing. Too easy.
Now the pattern has been changed.
No. The pattern remains the same.
It seems so simple.
This year's questions are even more simple. We only had 1 year which was a difficult year. That was 2023. And that year the result was clear. The cutoff was 75 marks. So, if the paper is very difficult, it's difficult for all the people, don't worry. Not selectively to you. So, the cutoff also comes down accordingly. Okay. So, we have the 3 organs. Legislature, judiciary, and then the third one, please write executive. Number 3, executive. So, this is the, yes, prince, guardian, very good, D. Rashtrapati Bhavan, great grand building. So, what is the task of the executive? Of course, when we start our discussions, we say that the task of executive is to implement laws, right? But this is a definition meant for noobs. You are legends. You will use a different definition. And let me ask you a question. Who in the country is bringing bills, proposals? Government, right? Who makes economic policies in the country? Economic policy. Government. Who decides social welfare programs, government schemes? Government. Who decides on foreign policy? Wars, etc. Government. Who takes care of law and order in the country? The police, part of government. So you can see very well that the government's task is not merely to implement laws, but way beyond that, right? So start writing under executive, give a dash and write. I'll dictate, please write. Initiating proposals. Initiating proposals. Number 2. making economic policies, making economic policies. Number 3, providing social welfare, providing social welfare. Next, maintaining law and order. Next, deciding foreign policy. Deciding foreign policy. Next, implementing laws. Implementing laws, etc. Okay, so see that the task of government is almost everything. And in fact, Supreme Court, way back in 1950s in a judgment had said that how do you define the functions of executive? Executive means government. So how to define the functions of government? The court said very easy. Any kind of function other than legislative function and judicial function in the country is executive function. Court's definition. Please write. Change the paragraph and write. All state functions, state, the country, all state functions except legislative and judicial, are governmental functions or are executive functions. Anything. Are executive functions. Okay. So once you have written this, give a dash. So this was a statement. Put in quotes, dash below and write SC in Ram Javaya Kapoor, 1955. If you want to write the full name, Jawaya, and Ram, you know, RAM. But no special marks for writing full name in the exam. That this aspirant knows full name, let's give him 2 marks extra. So RJ Kapoor is also as good as Ram Javaya Kapoor. This was a court judgment. Actually, the case was like this, that, you know, in Punjab, a lot of these private organizations started publishing textbooks for government schools. Punjab government said, no, we want to standardize everything and only we will allow the publishing of textbooks to be used in schools and colleges. And this was challenged by those private publishers in the Supreme Court. And then the Supreme Court clarified that no, government's task is not merely to implement laws, but to also decide everything in the country, showcasing how important executive is in the country, how important government is in the country. Okay, so this was the Ram Javaya Kapoor and the 3 organs. Next heading, please write now. Division of power. Division of power. Division of power, also sometimes referred to as, in bracket write, spatial distribution of functions. Spatial from the word space, domain. Spatial distribution of functions. So let's ask you a simple question. Who controls armed forces? Center or states? What do you feel? Center? Can Tamil Nadu have its own army? Not possible, right? Who controls currency? Center? Can Telangana have its own currency? Not possible. Okay, fair enough. Who controls police? State, right? That's very interesting. Some topics are given to center, some topics given to states. But then if we don't mention it somewhere, creates confusion. Tomorrow, Tamil Nadu can start saying that no, we also want to control armed forces. We'll have our own army, Tamil Nadu army. But if it is mentioned somewhere, then you can tell them that sorry, you can't make laws on these topics. They belong to center. Yes or no? So to tide over this kind of problem, our rulebook has very clearly said that there is clear-cut division of power between the center and the states. So there is a provision called Article 246 and along with that there is a schedule called Schedule 7 which lists various topics which are allocated to center and states. Okay, so since you don't have the barracks today, we'll just read it from the original constitution here, and tomorrow once you bring the copy you can keep on underlining things there itself. So I'll just show you the provision. Let's come to 246 first. Where are we? Can people at the back see this, or we don't know what is happening here? No idea? See, okay, great. So see, this article 246 says subject matter of laws made by parliament and by the legislature of states. So they say notwithstanding. Notwithstanding is a very typical word used in the Indian Constitution. It simply means in spite of. Notwithstanding means in spite of. So in spite of anything mentioned in the next clauses, Parliament has exclusive power to make laws with respect to any of the matters enumerated, meaning mentioned in list 1 in the 7th schedule in this constitution. Clear? So there are a list of topics on which only Parliament can make laws. Look at the word exclusive power. Exclusive means it is not shared with anybody else. Similarly, clause 2 says legislature of any state also has power to make laws with respect to matters in list number 3 in the 7th schedule, that is called concurrent list. And then it says that the state also has powers to make laws on state list. Let's come to this 7th schedule that all these articles are talking about. What the hell is the 7th schedule? Oh, we are still in the 6th schedule. So this is the 7th schedule. You can see the references of Article 246. So there are 3 lists. List 1 is called the Union list. It contains, right now it contains 98 topics. These are topics on which who has the power to make laws? Only center. Only Parliament can make laws. Defense, armed forces, atomic energy, CBI, then see foreign affairs, UNO, things like citizenship, for example. Citizenship, war and peace, these are all controlled by center, railways. So this list goes on and on. Again, if you want to make any change, we don't put the changes towards the end. We just insert them in between. For example, if you see, let's say we have added 92A, 92B. So last entry is 97. But we have added entries in between. This is a list of all the topics on which who can make laws? Parliament. Then we have list number 2. This is where state can make laws, like public order, police. That's why police is controlled by state. Okay, if you're an IPS officer, you have to serve under the state government. Prisons, all the jails are controlled by states only. If you ever end up in a jail, you are controlled by the state. Then public health, local government. Local government means what? Panchayats, municipalities. Who controls them? State government. Okay.
How about central prisons?
There's nothing called a central prison. It's named as central jail, which gets 50% funding from center. So all the jails which are named as central jails, they house prisoners who have violated a central law, and they get 50% funding from center. That's it. Right? So those prisons are slightly better actually, because state prisons states have no money. States' money is only spent in freebies, free this, free that. Right? So that's the problem. Again, all these things are a part of what? State list. Okay. Then lastly, we have one more list. So that list is very interesting. That list actually says that both center and states can make laws on these topics. But if there's any conflict, whose law prevails? Central law prevails. That list 3 is called concurrent list. You can see here criminal law. Like we have a criminal law. We earlier had something called IPC. Now we have BNS. Criminal procedure. We earlier had CRPC. Now we have BNSS. Then you have preventive detention, etc. Then also marriage, divorce, UCC, Uniform Civil Code. Yes or no? What is Uniform Civil Code? Yes, Uniform Civil Code means common law on personal matters like marriage, divorce, inheritance, succession, guardianship, etc. So who can make laws on that? Both center and states. Okay. So all these are topics where both center and states can make laws. Okay. So you can see here the entire list where education, including technical education, controlled by both center and states. Okay. Now let's write these points quickly. So come back here. First one, right? Union list. In bracket write 98 entries. I mean, you can call them topics also, but the correct word is entry. "98 entries. Below that, please write. I'll dictate. Parliament has exclusive power. Parliament has exclusive power to make laws. Parliament has exclusive power to make laws on these entries. Okay. Number 2. Second is the state list. State list has 59 topics or 59 entries. 59 entries. Below that, please write now. Normally, states have power. Normally, states have power to make laws on these topics. Normally, states have power to make laws on these topics. Okay. Then number 3, and that is concurrent. In bracket write 52 entries. 52 entries. Right below this, both center and states can make laws. Both center and states can make laws, but center has overriding power, but center has overriding power in case of conflict. Center has overriding power in case of conflict. Done? Okay.
So is education under concurrent list or state?
Concurrent list.
Then how come Tamil Nadu is not abiding to the three-language policy?
It is abiding to it.
No, actually it has taken off Hindi. So it's only two now.
No, there is always the option, right? So, when you talk about the new education policy of 2020, they have made certain modifications as per this NEP only, right? It was not mandatory to. Hindi is not mandatory. Right? Okay, done. Now, all these topics were framed by our makers, 1949-50, right? But there are certain topics which have come up recently. For example, cryptocurrency, artificial intelligence. Ambedkar had no idea about cryptocurrency. Nehru had no clue of such things existing. If he had a clue, then they would invest all the money in cryptocurrency only. Then Rahul Baba would not have to work so much. Now, what about these topics? Where are they mentioned? So, of course, these topics are not mentioned anywhere. But if a topic is not mentioned anywhere, then who controls it? Center automatically controls it. Okay? Now, this is also something you will find in the Constitution, that if a topic is not mentioned in any list, then that topic will be controlled by who? Parliament. So, any topic which is not mentioned in these three lists, those are called residuary powers. Subject to certain articles, forget that. Parliament has exclusive power to make any law with respect to any matter not enumerated in the concurrent list or state list. Are you clear? Okay. So, if a topic is not mentioned anywhere, who gets power over that? Center. So, you wrote here Article 246. Now, below that, write again Article 248. Residuary power. And right below this. Parliament has the power to make laws. Parliament has the power to make laws on matters not mentioned in any list. Not mentioned in any list. Are you clear? So, Parliament gets the power to make laws. Below that, write example. Cyber security, artificial intelligence, cryptocurrency, etc. Done? Okay. So this is what is the division of power. Division of power means power divided between center and states. Separation means three organs, L, E, J. Okay. Further, let's also understand the structure of our government. So firstly, when we talk about the executive, that's our next heading. Very briefly, just giving you brief on the words that we might encounter in the coming classes. So executive will be of two categories. One, of course, you have the permanent executive, and the other temporary, but let's call them political. Why to embarrass them by calling them temporary? Let's give them respect. Political. Permanent. Who are these permanent executive? Bureaucrats. Civil servants. People like you. Not right now, of course. But if all things go well in future, hopefully. Civil servants are called permanent executive. That's why you see in the movies, dialogues and all, that your chair is temporary, my posting is permanent, etc. Okay. So we have four categories of civil servants. Group A, B, C and D. Okay. Group A and B are called managing everything. Group C, the clerical staff, they are called supervisory. And group D are meant for routine functions. So group D refers to, Safai Karmachari, peon, messenger, daftari, office boy, etc. Group C, clerical staff, LDC, UDC, lower division clerk, upper division clerk. So the correct pronunciation is not clerk, it's called clerk, but it's okay. Then group A and B. So group A is where you want to be a part of. Yes. Which category do you think is the highest in terms of percentage? What do you feel? Group D. Yes or no? When you enter any government office, who do you see more? Clerk or peon? You see more peons? Clerks, right? 60% of total staff in the government sector are Group C employees. 30% are clerical staff, Group D staff. And remaining 10% are A and B, of which 9% are Group B, non-gazetted posts. So that's the situation. But anyway, that's of no concern to us. And since we'll be using this term a lot with respect to IAS officers, so in the IAS offices also there's a category. They are called secretaries, right? So at the top, at the central ministry level, you have secretary in any ministry. Below that, you have additional secretary. And then you have joint secretary. Then you have a deputy secretary. And finally, under secretary. SAJDU. In every ministry, this is the hierarchy. And beyond that, you have the senior most IAS in the country, who is called Cabinet Secretary. This fellow is the senior most IAS officer. So from today, this should be your dream. If you don't have a dream, I'm giving you a dream to aim for the post of Cabinet Secretary once you enter the services. But a lot depends on factors like, when do you enter, what cadre do you get, what is your rank, primarily your age. If you get below 25, good. Beyond that becomes a challenge. And also right connections, right performance, etc. All these things will always come into play, and luck factor. But this is the hierarchy: SAJDU and Cabinet Secretary. And in your states, the senior most IAS is called a Chief Secretary. Okay, at the state level. Now coming to our political executive, let's not forget them. They are also at two levels: union level and the state level. Union level, at the top you have the president. Yes. Below him you have vice president, VP. Then you have PM and his entire council, and his entire council of ministers, COMs. Okay. And below that you have a person called AG. I'm writing the full form here. Attorney General. We'll discuss all these people later on. Just to clarify, Attorney General is government's lawyer. That's it. These 5 people part of union. Similarly, we have at the state level also. At the top in the state, who is there? Governor. Then below governor, vice governor? No? Oh, okay then, if you say so. Then directly CM. Then council of ministers. Now just like at the central level, we have Attorney General, lawyer of central government. At the state level, we have lawyer for state government. And that fellow is called Advocate General. Advocate General. Done? So basic categorization, executive. Should we proceed now? Okay, right. All done? Okay. Next is our legislature. At 2 levels. At the union level, the body is called what? Parliament. So union legislature is called parliament. And we have a bicameral. Bicameral. What is the meaning of bicameral? Bicameral means 2 houses. So we have 2 houses. One is the House of People. The other is the not House but Council of States. This House of People is what you know as the Lok Sabha. And Council of States is what you refer to as the Rajya Sabha. And both these houses have a very honest person called MP, Member of Parliament. Honest, hardworking, high performing. At the state level, similar kind of structure. States, again 2 houses. One house is called Legislative assembly, LA. This is there in all the states. All states. Also referred to as sometimes Vidhan Sabha. And the innocent people here are called MLAs. Now in some states, we have one more house that is called Legislative Council, called Vidhan Parishad. And here those people are known as MLC, Member of Legislative Council. So, assembly in all the states, right? And council in only 6 states. Please write the names of all the 6 states below. Tell me. Of course, Andhra Pradesh and Telangana, great, amazing. Some other states. Maharashtra, Karnataka, Uttar Pradesh, Bihar. These 6 states have councils. Why? Details later on. Write the names. 6 names. Andhra Pradesh, AP, comma, Bihar, comma, Karnataka, comma, Maharashtra, comma, Telangana, comma, UP. Just going by alphabetical order. Don't feel upset. Why Telangana towards number 5? Clear? These 6 states have councils. Why only these 6 and all? Details later on. And lastly, should we proceed from here? All done? And lastly, the judicial structure also, before we move on. Judiciary. So we have a hierarchy, 3-tier structure. At the top we have the always correct, never wrong Supreme Court. Then below them we have high courts. And at the lowest level we have subordinate courts, also called trial courts, district courts, various names. These 2 courts are also known as constitutional courts. Supreme Court is also called the apex court in the country, right? How many courts do we have? Supreme Court, just 1. And there are 25 such high courts. And more than 20,000 such lower court rooms are there across the country. 2? No. 5.3 crore cases are pending. So, we'll come to all that later on, don't worry. Okay, now we say that Indian judiciary is integrated and independent. Independent, you know, separation of powers. What is the meaning of integrated judiciary? Arrow is there, but words are missing, so appellate. Yes. Decisions of lower courts can be challenged in the High Court, and High Court judgments are challenged in the Supreme Court. So below this, put a star mark and write independent and integrated judiciary. Integrated judiciary. Independent and integrated judiciary. And below integrated, put an arrow and write decisions of lower courts. You wrote independent and integrated judiciary. Underline this arrow and write decisions of lower courts can be challenged in the higher courts. Decisions of lower courts can be challenged in the higher courts. Okay. So this is the entire structure. All basic terms are done. Now, just to clarify, what is our structure of study going to be? So how will we complete this very small course? So we'll start not by understanding the preamble and all. Why? Because the preamble has too many words, the meanings of which you are not aware of right now. So we'll start by understanding the union executive first. Okay, the president, the VP, PM, etc. Once we are done, we'll move on to understanding the parliament. Don't worry, this is by far the most standard way to study actually. Just because in our constitution article 1 deals with something else, we are all following that pattern. Because if you follow that pattern, it expects you to assume a lot of information. That becomes a problem. In this way, we keep on collecting information and the assumption is very less. Once you are done here, then we'll discuss also the states, their executive and their legislature. And so our executive and legislature is done. But before we move on to judiciary, we'll also discuss local self-government. After all this, we'll cover judiciary. And here itself, we'll cover all the issues of judiciary. Supreme Court, High Court, lower courts, activism, PIL, independence, pendency of cases, everything will be covered here only. This will take more than almost half of your entire schedule. And this is where you have L, E and J all done. Clear? Once we cover this, we'll come to elections. One more important topic from where you get mains questions. Here we'll study Election Commission of India, RPA 50, 51, electoral issues like one nation, one election, etc. Once we are done here, then we'll move on to all these smaller topics like part 1, that is union and its territory, part 2, citizenship, then UTs, then article 370, then schedule 5 and schedule 6 areas. After covering this, we'll come to emergency provisions. And once we are done here, then we'll discuss center-state relations. Because the relations need to be discussed only after all these things, not before that. Because this is largely administrative and financial and legislative relation. So we need to know all these aspects. Only then can you have a proper discussion on this topic. Once this is done, then we'll come on to fundamental rights. Again, a large topic. DPSP, small topic. Fundamental duties. Then official languages. And lastly, we'll cover preamble. And then towards the end, we'll discuss the making of the constitution, how this rule book was made, and also salient features, because then you know everything. So salient feature is just a revision for you. So largely categorized into 3 parts. Of course, it will be one full class only, but 3 different parts. Okay. No, I need to explain this in a GS class because you have your books on which follow things differently, which creates a sense of confusion. But don't worry, you'll be covering everything way beyond what your books are offering. Okay. See, before I end our discussion, please tomorrow bring that bare acts. Otherwise, it will be a trouble for you only because I will dictate notes, no problem, but I'll also make you underline the bare acts. And if things are missing, you can't revise properly. Reading the bare acts is important because that gives your answers a structure, a sense of language, right? See, when this class begins and from today onwards, your task is to just revise on a regular basis, multiple times. Don't panic once you start studying and revising. After, let's say, a single revision, you will not be able to recollect anything. That's a very natural course of events. You are not Chitti from robot, okay? It'll take time. Multiple revisions are required. So please revise at least 3 times before you come to the next class. Because you will face a problem in future. Once you see the notes, you will see what is this all about. I have no connection to what the faculty said, etc. It can be a challenge. So please revise along with the class. So I am not here to predict questions in the exam. That's not my task. I can't also. Nobody can. And that's a wasteful exercise. We just prepare ourselves to encounter any question. Let me end this first class by telling you and promising you that one thing I'll promise you is that in your exam, you will not experience a single question in the exam that you cannot answer and somebody else can answer. That will not happen, I assure you. If there's a question you can't answer in the exam, trust me, nobody can answer it. So be very happy in that moment that, okay, relax that nobody can answer this question. I declare that's a promise I'll make to you. Otherwise, predicting questions, etc. is beyond our capacity. Okay. So let's meet tomorrow. Tomorrow we'll have a slightly shorter class from 2:15. When is the class? 2:30, right? 2:30 to 4. That's when we'll have the class. So our regular class timing is going to be the same. That is 2:30 to 4:45. This is our class timing. I hope you have sent this message today. The class timing. 2:15 was sent to you. But I was told that you had gotten rectified later on and 2:30 was sent. Some are saying 2:30. Others have no clue. Okay, no problem. This is your class timing. But just for tomorrow, we'll have a class only till 4 o'clock. So full party after 4 o'clock. Right? Your life. Okay. So that's all for me. Let's meet tomorrow. Jai Hind.